So I want to welcome everyone today. This is our first virtual urban farm tour event. This special event is coordinated by the Great Lakes Urban Agriculture IPM Working Group. This work is supported by the USDA National Institute of Food and Agriculture Crop Protection and Pest Management Program through the North Central IPM Center, and we thank them for their support. A couple quick setup items, just so you know, this presentation is being recorded and will, with our farmers' approval, will be sent out by the end of the day on Friday. It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow. Please note that the presentation links are only going to be available for 60 days past the recording date. I also wanted to provide a quick meeting orientation for today. Like I said, if you were with us just a moment ago, to maintain the best quality experience in recording for today, we are going to keep everyone's video off. And I've also adjusted the settings so that you cannot unmute yourself to lower any background noise that may occur. If you need anything, please use that chat box. This event format is kind of completely new. I have to hold on one second while I confirm our language. I've never seen that pop up before. But it goes with the theme of what I was just saying, that this program is completely new. So we are expecting maybe one or two glitches to happen. So please bear with us. We're going to do our best to make sure that it is the best experience for everyone involved. Okay, so if something happens, please use that chat box. Okay. And also, I've never done a virtual tour in an event like this. So just know there will be a part where we will be navigating around a virtual tour. And I feel like that could provide the same experience of someone walking around with their laptop. So just know that if you feel queasy or have some vertigo symptoms, that step away, and we are recording, so you'll have another chance to view this as well. Okay. Okay, so let's get started. First, allow me to do just a couple quick introductions. So my name is Maggie Rivera, and I'm the agriculture educator with Ohio State Extension in Summit County, which is in Northeast Ohio. I have had the pleasure of serving as the project lead for the Great Lakes Urban Agriculture IPM Working Group for the past several years, and it's been a great honor. The second person I wanted to introduce is Dr. Laura Ingwell, who is a trained entomologist and assistant professor of fruit and vegetable pest management with Purdue University in Indiana. Dr. Ingwell she's waving.
Hi, everyone.
She's now been the co-lead for this working group for almost 2 years now. Is that right?
I think so.
Yeah, time flies. So we also have we're very excited to have Amy from Mad Farmers Collective with us today. And I'm going to hold her introduction for a little bit here because we do have a special element for that. But first, I wanted to also introduce Jim Jasinski, who's with us today. Jim is a professor and the Integrated Pest Management Program coordinator for Ohio State University Extension. Jim works with specialty crop growers across the state of Ohio. And he is he's the working group member who first started to dabble in this 360-degree imaging technology, which is actually what allowed us to create this tour that we're sharing with you today. So Jim is going to give us a brief overview of that technology and the tools that we use to create the tour. So let me just get those slides up real quick here, and then I will pass it over to you, Jim. Sorry, there was a little sneak peek of where we're going. Okay, Jim, I will hand it over to you to start your presentation here.
Okay, you'll just advance the slides for me, is that right? Okay, yep, great. Well, wonderful. Thank you for that glowing introduction, Maggie. That was wonderful. Good to Always good to be on the program and just sort of chat about this new technology. You know, as I put it, this is a premiere. This is the first time we've done this. So I was thinking, where are the fireworks? Where are the dancers? Where's the entertainment? You know, and then I realized that our extension budgets don't allow for that. So maybe we'll have to put that in the budget next time we do the project planning. But anyhow, I do want to make sure that we recognize not only, you know, Maggie and Laura for their contributions. We're going to be talking about Zach Miller a little bit. He's the photography consultant. And then each of the states we've been working in, Indiana and Illinois and Michigan, there were extension educators there that were helping us line up the farms and doing some work with us too. So there's quite a bit of a team effort going on here. Go ahead. Did you want me to? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. So in the presentation, kind of an overview. We're going to just talk about what is 360-degree imaging. You know, what does that look like? What is that? We're going to basically, you know, show you what these virtual tours look like and kind of use them as tools to show the diversity of urban ag farms, you know, really across the region now. That give you this almost there experience, which hopefully you can get that from this interaction. If not, if you go and do it first person, it might be a little different, but it's a pretty cool technology, I think. And inside of it, it allows us to point out certain things that are going on, not just the imagery, but you know what's significant about the things that you're seeing, and that's really kind of cool. We can add information, you know, after the tour has been shot. We're hoping that that sort of creates this spark of this interest or empowers people to go off and, you know, maybe think about creating their own urban ag farm, you know, and just what do they look like? What can the components be? And then lastly, we're really glad that we can, you know, bring in the owner operators of these farms and have them tell their stories as well. Go ahead, Maggie. So what are 360 virtual tours? You know, really it's just a collection of images, you know, that are stitched together that give you this sensation of looking all the way around you, up and down, all at the same time. It's really up to you to kind of create your own adventure as to what you do. There's special technology that goes into this, special cameras with special lenses and whatever. We're not going to get too hung up in that. And so, you know, to sort of root this, you know, if anyone has gone shopping for a car or a house or apartment in the last couple of years, you've probably bumped into this. So if you want to click the next two. So if you've ever, you know, tried to set up a real estate appointment and then, you know, you can see the location, you can walk through all the different rooms. You can go into the bathroom and go to the bedroom, go upstairs, go downstairs. That's 360 technology. Look around, you know, see what the molding's like. If you bought a car, sitting in the car, you can look at the dashboard, you can turn around, see what's in the back seat, see what's going down through the sunroof, look down where the floorboards are. That's all 360 technology. That's the technology we're employing here. There's a whole range of cameras from cell phone cameras, iPhones, Androids, all the way up to man's best friend. This Boston Dynamics dog, instead of a head, has got a scanner, laser for a head, so you can send him around and do the scanning. But the tool that we like to use, we have used, is this next image. It's a very simple camera. It's smaller than an iPhone. It's called a Ricoh Theta Z1. It costs about $1,000 or so. And what makes it kind of unique is you see on the right side image there, it's got a 180-degree fisheye lens on the right side. Oh, let's go back. And a 180-degree fisheye lens on the left side. And so if you put those 180 and 180 degrees back to back, that makes it 360. And so those two lenses on one camera gets that surround sound kind of an image. Next. Okay, so the idea is that, you know, we want an image of farm, and we've had many iterations of, you know, what makes a good tour, and we've kind of come upon this design where we think about the farm in terms of an aerial image, look down on top of it and see there might be a market, there might be some high tunnels, maybe some raised beds, a wash pack area, maybe herb garden. We have the owner operator manager kind of walk us around, talk to us about what's there. That'd be myself and Zach, the actual consultant. And then afterwards, we kind of start the imaging process. And so what Zach will do, he'll pull out his camera and he'll start taking, you go ahead and advance the picture there. Thank you. What Zach will do is go through these areas and take pictures, okay? And then we'll label those areas so that when people come to visit, they'll be able to say, oh, I want to look at the raised bed area. They can click on those images. Might check out the high tunnel areas. They can click on those images, the herb garden, the wash pack, the market, etc. So it gives you an orientation as to what you're looking at and go, you sort of seek out specific things you might be interested in. Go ahead. So the big process we did this past year that we've refined down is when we go to a farm to image it, it takes about 2 hours per farm. A couple different components. One component is the grower interview. So after we do all the imaging, of site to site to site, this area, that area, we have a grower interview where we have kind of a standard palette of questions that we'll ask them, basic things about, the farm operation, the size, the history, the mission, the customers, volunteers, where are they going in the future? I mean, all those kind of fun questions that, they want to talk about. We talk about the crops, what do they grow? High tunnels, raised beds, in the ground, hydroponic, that all becomes part of the discussion. Since it's an IPM focused grant, we also talk about, what are your pest challenges, insect wise or disease, or weeds or vertebrates, and how do you manage those? We kind of wrap that all up, and we hope to get in that 3 to 5 minute, window, but a lot of times it's more like 6 to 10 minutes. It's just a lot of information to try to squeeze in there. So we have all the information collected at the farm. We go back, we do the post-production. I edit the grower interviews, kind of get those a little more concise. Zach then does all of the tour information, kind of gets all of those images curated into one collection, turns it over to me and some other folks. We go ahead and stick in that really interesting educational piece. That's the text part, and the imagery and the video. You'll see some of that come up. And then those tours are published on software called Cloud Pano. And then once they're published, that link gets given over to us, and we can post that in our Ohio State Urban Ag Team website. Currently, we've done 4 to start with about 3 years ago. Maggie did 4 2 years ago. We did 9 this past year in 2023, and then we're scheduled to do at least 4 or 8 more coming up in the near future. We've done them in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and Michigan. So we are kind of spreading out in terms of a region. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. I think we have one more slide maybe. I just want to show you that this is Zach Miller. He's the photography consultant. He's the one that, I had the vision. He had the ability, the technology. We just kind of fit like a nut in a bolt. So it worked out great. That little orange arrow is pointing to the camera itself. It's very, very tiny. So just wanted to give a big shout out to Zach. Without him, we wouldn't have been able to do this. But we're here. We're glad to move on with the program. I think that's all I had to give you, is that quick overview of the process, so you kind of know what's behind the story. I think now Maggie and Laura and Amy are going to take over and kind of walk through the rest of it. I'll be here if there's any questions for later on.
Let me get my mic back on. Thanks, Jim. Yeah, that was a great overview. So, all right, let's take a look at the tour now. And I haven't forgot about introducing Amy. We will do that in just a moment here, but thanks for that overview, Jim. So what we want to do is, first, we just want to show you this overview of the farm, but also this is the actual homepage for the virtual tour. Okay, so just like Jim said, if you had that link that we got from Zach Miller, the photographer, this is exactly where it takes us. Okay, so what we see, this overview, and all of these carrots are different areas where we can kind of beam down to see. Okay, and you can see as you hover over these carrots, they're named different things so that we kind of know what to expect when we beam down. But first, we're going to beam down here. This is kind of like our home spot. where we have this grower interview. So let's go down here. And I also am aware, using this on Zoom, it might be a little choppy and it might have a delay. So I'm going to try, whenever I click anything, to wait 5 seconds before I start talking about it. But if I need to slow down even further, or if there's an unreasonable delay, just let me know. So we have that icon there that we can click on, and you can see it brings up a YouTube video here. And this is where we're going to have Amy's introduction. She's going to do it herself via this YouTube video. So let me hit play. Sound should be shared, so we shouldn't have any issues. Here we go.
And I'm one of the farmers with Mad Farmers Collective in Indianapolis, Indiana. We are an urban farm, so we're downtown Indianapolis, about 2 miles south of the city center. We have 1.5 acres of our main site, which we've been on for 13 years. And we have a satellite site, which is now our home. We've been growing out for 2 years. So at our main site, which is 1.5 acres, we have 4 small tunnels, unheated. We have, which are 15 by 48. So we have 4 medium tunnels, which are 14 by 80 or so. And then we have 1 larger tunnel, which is 30 by 48. And then at home, at our satellite farm, we have 2 tunnels, which are much bigger, much more efficient size, which are about 30 by 120. At this time, we have 2 farming partners, myself and Matthew Josie, and we have 4 part-time staff who work with us. The site we're on now, we have leased for 13 years from a nonprofit organization. It started with a community development group, and the ownership transferred to the city in our 2nd season of growing. The city owned it for a couple years and then gave it to a nonprofit social service agency. And they have an on-site facility here and do a program here on-site, but unrelated to us. So we lease from them. Our other site, where we have some the larger high tunnels and might do a nursery in the future, is a couple acres, and we now own that. Our mission here with Mad Farmers Collective is to grow as much food as we possibly can, be a sustainable business, and contribute to the community. And it's as simple as that. We've done different things over the years to reach that mission, to achieve that mission, but it's evolved, and we don't do any one set thing except for growing and selling food. But over the years, we've hosted, in the early years of the farm, we were able to host a youth program. We've hosted gobs of tours, and we've been involved with kind of the network of urban farms in Indianapolis. So helping to coach others, or helping to get them plants when they need it, or just participating in kind of the informal network of all the other growers in the city, especially nonprofits and other folks who are just starting up. So we've been involved with lots of programs through Purdue Extension, and we really like to do that, to share what we're learning along the way. We were involved with starting the farmers market in our community. When I first started this farm, there was no Saturday morning place to go sell our food, and some neighbors and folks in a neighborhood just south of here joined together, and they started a market. And so we kind of help be anchor vendors as they were building it up, and now they've built it into a beautiful community institution, which will hopefully be around a while. So, our mission is just to be here in the city and to expose people to agriculture, hopefully by having a sustainable business that has the best quality food that we can grow. Our food goes out to, I think, 3 main outlets. We always do a Saturday morning farmers market. In the summer, it's in Garfield Park, and in the winter, we do the Indy Winter Farmers Market. And so we do that. Now we're almost year-round with that. So 48-ish weeks a year, we get out to the markets. We have an online store, which we started in March of 2020. So we've found a good following with that. And so we twice a week open that store up, and folks can order what they want and pick up here on the farm. So a little bit like a CSA, but you know, the customers can choose what they want. And then our third outlet is just lots of small businesses around town, and that you know, it changes seasonally almost depending on what restaurants and small markets are opening and closing, and chefs going here and there. But we found really that's been a really good market for us as well. And that's really grown in Indianapolis in the past 10 or 15 years. Even though we're surrounded by a city, we definitely are not exempt from all the agricultural pests that I think any vegetable farm deals with. So we fight flea beetles, and we'd use Protect Net for that. So nothing, arugula or brassica goes in the ground without Protect Net for the whole life of it. And that's the really fine mesh one. We have cucumber beetles like crazy. We've found sticky traps with the lures have worked really well to decrease that population over time. We still fight them every year, but much less than we used to. We use sticky traps for a lot of different pests that we have. So we've battled a pepper weevil that we found a sticky trap that works well for. We're working on the tomato pinworm right now, and hopefully the trap and lure are working to decrease that pest population. We use a lure and trap for squash vine borer. We use netting for several other things. So we use that to exclude the fly with the carrot weevil. We use the netting for obviously the brassica caterpillars and moths that can get in there. So we use a variety of approaches, obviously. So exclusion netting is a big one, different mesh sizes. The sticky traps are a big one. We will use organic sprays if we need to. We tend to be not as proactive as we should be on that, I think. And now we're working with Purdue to try out some of the different beneficials to release. And then we just also don't hesitate to pull a crop. Our plans for the farm for the future are uncertain. So we have a site here that we don't own, and we've been, working on for 13 years. And so our lease is year to year, so we're not really sure how long this site will be. We do have land that we own now. And so we really have to, we're really kind of in a little bit of a decision phase here for the next year or two. We've built up a business that's relatively stable, and it's still a lot of hard work and a lot of variables that we can't control. So yeah, we're working through that. We would like, no matter what scale our vegetable operation is, we would like to build up our on-farm nursery and plant sales. That's been something that we've had a lot of success at and we enjoy. So we'd like to evolve in that direction, and beyond that, we'll have to see. To stay connected with us, with Matthew and I, Mad Farmers Collective, you can always contact us through madfarmersindy.com, and our email is farmers@madfarmersindy.com. Stop by the markets. People can stop by here at the farm. We're usually here, someone's usually here, or set up a visit with us.
Okay, so Amy, thank you for your own introduction. Let me make this big. I just realized I wasn't full screen, so let me try that out real quick. Okay, much better. So Amy was able to give that introduction. Thanks for reporting that. But this is where we're really going to kind of get into the tour. So if you were with us, we beamed down from that aerial overview. I went and hit this button right away. But I forgot to mention that, we are on the ground in the farm, right? So right now we're facing the road. But let me just pan around so that you can all see. And I'm going slowly. Again, I don't want to make anyone seasick, but you can see that you can literally turn around 360 degrees. It's like a normal day on the farm. There's a couple people sitting at the bench. so this is facing towards the, the big portion of the farm. Okay. So again, you get beamed down, you're facing a certain direction wherever we oriented it to. And then it's kind of up to us or you, if you're visiting, to kind of take a look around. Okay, so I'm going to navigate over to one more spot where I'm going to just explain a little bit more of the tour's capabilities. So let me scroll. You see all these photos at the bottom. Those are all the 23 different sites that you can go to on this farm. And I'm just going to click back to our home page so we see that aerial overview again. Okay. So we've got our aerial overview. So this is where we just beamed down to. We were facing the road. And when I swiveled around, we were seeing the entire farm. Okay. Now I'm going to head over to this tunnel because we've put some things in there where we want you to see. So let's beam down to this tunnel. Okay, hopefully you're there with me. What you can see is you can see the tunnel, of course, but we also have these different icons that you can that you can click on. So even if you just hover over them, they do have that additional information. If you click them, that information sticks. Okay. So this is a way that we can add educational information to any of these farm tours. Okay. So, and there's a few different ways that we can do that. Like where we beam down at the initial site, you saw me click on a video link. So we can embed video into it. This would be an example of embedding some text, right? A little instruction, look around this seed and transplant start house, currently curing garlic as well. So I think these are all text bubbles, right? This one is noting the yellow sticky card to trap insects. Okay. Let's go up first. This one is noting the fans that help circulate air to cool the tunnels and reduce plant disease with that air ventilation. Let's go down to this one that we missed here. This is saying, again, same thing, look around the tunnel, see that curing garlic. So all of those are text that we've put in there, but here is an example of an image. And right now it's just a placeholder, but you can get the concept that if we wanted to, we could put an image of an insect pest or an image of a tool that was used to prepare a bed, things like that. So I just wanted to kind of describe the different capabilities that this tour can have, because we're going to go through a couple tunnels or a couple different sites on the farm. But after we go through a couple, I want you as an audience member to be thinking about what information would be helpful in a tour like this, and in what format would it be most helpful in? Is it most helpful to have it just a text bubble like this, a photo, a still image like this was, or we also have the ability to put in video. Okay, so if you could think about that, we're gonna poll you. We're gonna give you a question about that in a couple of minutes here. But Amy and Laura, if you'd like, this is where I'm going to invite you guys in to kind of comment or explain anything you want about this, what we're looking at here, and then we'll jump to 6 different spots on the farm after this. So I just want to make sure. Yep, there's Laura. And we'll get Amy. Okay, hey Amy, up there. So I'm also going to change the settings a little bit so that folks can unmute themselves. So if you do, as we move from location to location, if you have a question or a comment that you'd like to ask about what we're seeing, feel free to, you can raise your hand, you can unmute yourself, or you can use the chat box. I'll be watching that as well. Okay, so Amy, do you want to just give an overview of how you utilize this space on the farm?
Sure, yeah. This technology is very interesting. It's like slightly jarring to see late summer in permanently etched in digitized, but that's okay. That's how it is in late summer. So yeah, wow. So anyway, this is just our small, I think it's 20 by 48. It was the original structure we put up on the farm to house transplants. And so it's pretty simple. I mean, you see a propane heater there in the back. We just have a few propane tanks in the back of this, yeah. And it's got, double poly with an inflator. And then the beds you see on the right and the left have heating cables run through them if we need to add bottom heat for anything. But it's sort of just where we kind of started out and learned how to put together a seedling tunnel. Anybody who looks at this tool for a little bit will be better prepared than we were when we were setting it up. You can see in the back left a little germination chamber that's got crock pots in there for heat and a little thermostat on it. So that's actually full right at the moment. We've got all kinds of stuff starting in there. Yeah, and actually insects in this tunnel in the late summer were a big problem this year, mostly thrips on transplants. So yeah.
And just to show people, I will just kind of do a little spin around. Is this the inflator?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Jim pointed that out to me while we were looking at it the other day.
Yeah.
But you could just see, do you use this outside area for hardening off?
Well, we use it for hardening off our workspace. We have another tunnel to harden things off. Yep.
Great.
Yeah, at this point, it looks like things that just need to be dumped in the compost pile. But
and that needs a space too, right?
It absolutely does. Out in front is probably not the best space, but
yeah, your soil mix there, getting everything filled.
Yeah, and you can see the paper pot transplanter trays on the left there. That's what we use for a lot of things. The right is obviously just cell trays, but that tool in the front, that plexiglass thing, is part of the paper pot transplanter.
Yeah. Got it. You said you had a big thrip problem. So anyone have questions? Let's see, I have to be looking at the chat box too. Okay. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, Laura, or if you have any comments too.
No, I was just going to say I got my eyes on the chat, Maggie, so don't worry.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, wonderful. Yeah, I agree though, Amy, it is jarring to see garlic curing. It's like, wait, what's going on? That's
well, mostly
July stuff.
The weeds and the mess, but was this July or August? I couldn't remember.
August, because it was right before school. My kids were in that picture.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah, I was like, who was that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if anyone has any questions, I'll hang out just for a few more seconds. And if not, we've got a lot more to see. So this was really a place where we just wanted to show you all those different capabilities. So if not, we will beam back up and then beam back down. Okay. We'll beam up. We can always come back. Just like a tour if we were there. You could always circle back. All right, so we're heading over. We want to go to here next. I drew myself a little map where we were going. So it looks like here we've got a grower experimenting with red apple maggot traps and yellow sticky cards in the high tunnel for tomato and pepper crops below. So I won't move right now. I'll start here because it's got a lovely view of the trap, a few different traps here. But do you want to just describe what you're doing in here, Amy?
Yeah, we had a pepper weevil, I think it's what it's called, one year. This is probably 5 or 6 years ago, and one of the growers researched and read somewhere the apple maggot. It's technically an apple maggot, apple, some kind of apple maggot trap. Um, and there's a little pheromone to hang on it too, that it would work. And it's such, once they're on there and it's such a small little thing, I'm not certain that we're catching the thing we want, but like after a season where we had to throw away, literally take off site like the full first harvest. We also read, okay, there's one generation, but it was a full first harvest, so a week or two of our crop had to take it off. Anyway, we haven't had a problem since we started using them, so I don't know if it's more sorcery or science, but so we still use them regularly. And then the sticky traps, I think those in the tunnel we don't. I think those we don't have any kind of lure on them in particular. But we also hang some of those traps more within the peppers because I wasn't sure exactly where was the best way to target that particular pest, if they'd be kind of up above or kind of right in there. Oh, I see. Actually, that card on there, I think we finally did get a more specific lure to put on the card. That's what we did this year. But then I just included both because why not? So we did a more, yeah. And I don't know if Laura's team looked at those cards or not, but there was a specific, supposed to be a pepper maggot lure on that particular trap. So pretty much we had a day in early spring where I kind of taught 3 or 4 staff which trap went where and what it was for, and then like we all just kind of fanned out and did them, and then tried to keep up with whenever we were supposed to replace them. So that tunnel would have had those the trap too for the tomato pinworm.
Tomato pinworm.
Yes,
I
yeah.
think we have another image that we'll see where you can see that trap a little better.
Mm-hmm. So, with that, I think I got him out a little on the early end of being able to catch the adults, but yeah, sometimes it's all of the above strategy. So,
Yeah.
Right.
It was an interesting adaptation, Amy. That was the first time I learned about you utilizing the apple maggot traps.
mhm.
So the apple maggot fly is a picture wing fly that the maggot is in the fruit. And that's what those red traps are made for, because it's the color and shape of an apple, right? And so you were using them for the, it's called the pepper maggot fly. So very closely related. Another sort of picture wing fly that lays. So it's interesting. And it
Yeah.
seems well for
And
you guys. So that's great.
one of the growers, I mean, she looked up some site that wasn't like gardenyahoo.com, it was an extension kind of thing. And so we thought, what the heck, let's try it. But, sometimes we just have imperfect information, but the fact that we haven't had an infestation since then, we just.
Mhm.
Do you remember the varieties that you were growing?
Peppers?
Of, peppers and tomatoes?
The peppers in here would have been a bell, red night we do, gourmet, sweet sunrise. When we got the worst infestation was in a lunchbox pepper of that particular pest. But then the second year we had it, before we started using the traps, it was in them all. The tomatoes, we usually do hybrid slicers of different colors. So like Abigail, Big Beef Plus, Lemon Boy Plus, I'm trying to, Carbon Cherokee, yeah, probably a couple others. We usually try to track down an orange as well, depending on what's available each year.
I don't know if you can notice right here in the middle of her tomatoes, there's this T-post that has an arm coming off of it. Maggie, if you zoom right in on that little, yeah. So Amy is collaborating with us on this high tunnel project, trying to understand sort of the environmental characteristics within and outside of high tunnels and how that changes throughout the seasons. So that is a high-tech weather station that we've deployed, which don't work as well as we would have hoped. But there's a light sensor on there to monitor the amount of light that's coming through the plastic. Soil temperature sensors, air temperature sensors, relative humidity sensors, and then we have one paired outside of her high tunnel as well. And we are monitoring 12 months out of the year to see how well the tunnel's actually buffering some of those environmental variables. So that's what that is, that
Very
Amy
cool.
kindly works around in the middle of the tunnel for us.
That's very cool. Yeah, that monitoring technology is getting a lot better too. So seems like there's some good options out there for that too.
I don't know if Amy's ever utilized it, but that does like talk to a like cell phone tower and gives you real-time information online. So she can log in and see, you know, from home what the temperature is in the tunnel. If everything is aligning and it works.
We have done that, like last year when it was a terrible cold snap around Christmas and we didn't, anyway, we learned that it was almost as cold inside as outside. So,
Yeah, sometimes not the information you want to see.
I know, yeah, we're like,
At least you
okay,
can manage it at that
inside.
point. Yeah. Something just to note about the tour too, the text that I showed you at the beginning had a little bit of a gray box behind it or a gray color behind it. This one doesn't. So we're also interested to know if it matters to folks. I think it is a little easier to see when we have that gray background. But if you want to, you know, drop your opinion in the chat box, that's we'd love some feedback on that too. Any questions for Amy? Don't run out and buy those seeds. Let Amy make sure that she has her seeds for this year. I don't know if you're growing the same things.
We're all set. We planted them already. We're all set.
All right. All right. Good. All right. Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll give you a second. Anything else we want to mention about this? There's a lot going on in here. A lot of trapping, a lot of monitoring.
Really big, healthy tomato plants at this point in the year. I'm impressed.
Yeah.
Well, they're unpruned at this point of the year, so that's what I'm saying. We usually do a decent job of pruning. Not
Yeah.
this tunnel, not that year, but
Huh. And I'm looking at the trailing.
In the tomato pinworm.
Oh, tomato pinworm.
Yes.
Was that a problem in this tunnel?
Yes.
Okay. Do you guys want to talk a little more about that?
I wish we had the image of the trap there, but so this is a pest that's new to Indiana that we recognized probably 3 years ago. And so it is what you call a microlepidopteran pest. So a very, very small, the adult moth is 3 to 5 millimeters. And they lay their eggs on the plant, usually at the petiole, like the tip of the leaf, or if they're infesting the plant while it's fruiting at the base of the fruit. And the caterpillars go through part of their life stage actually mining in the plant. So they will bury themselves between the tissues in the leaf and feed in between those layers for the first 2 or 3 instars. Then they will chew out and roll the leaf around themselves and continue to feed, and then pupate up on the plant on the leaf or drop down into the soil. And if the plant's fruiting, they will do all of that feeding and pupating in the fruit as well. And so we were not expecting to see it in Indiana. It doesn't overwinter. It's typically a pest that's present in the southern United States, and you occasionally would find it in the Midwest on transplants that were produced in Florida and shipped to the US. And then if they were grown in a greenhouse, you would find it. What we are noticing with the work we're doing right now in Indiana. So we are surveying in 18 farms throughout the state. We found it first in our urban farms, but this past year we identified it in every single high tunnel that we were working in the state in tomatoes. We started this year monitoring with Delta traps, which I think we'll get to see in one of these pictures. It's a white, like double-winged trap, and there's a pheromone lure that attracts the male moths to the trap. And so we started monitoring this year with that to try to get a better idea of the phenology of the insect. It's very hard to ID the moth. And so we are still working on pulling those off of sticky traps and identifying them. But what we can say is that the larval stages, the caterpillars, are showing up around late July, early August. That's when we're starting to see that stage out on the crop. And so we're still trying to understand things. One encouraging thing, I think, is that in a high tunnel, the idea of using mating disruption may or may not be helpful, because we can really concentrate those lures and that smell in there. Try to get them confused and not able to find mates. The overwintering thing is what's really interesting to me, and I kind of feel like there has to be some level of overwintering happening, because all of these growers are starting from seed. No one is bringing in contaminated material. And so the documented survival is around 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And we know it does get colder than that in the tunnels. But if they are potentially pupating in the soil, they may have some protection from that. And so that's still kind of the mystery for us.
So you guys still aren't sure, Laura, if they were showing up in those traps?
We have not been able to identify that moth in particular. So we do have a lot of microleps that we are pulling out of those traps. So there are a lot of moths that are 3 to 5 millimeters. And so what we're doing right now is which ones are the actual pinworm. Right now we only know for sure that the larvae were there in late July, early August. And so we're focusing on the traps at that time, sort of mid-July to late July, to try to see when we find the first adults flying.
Interesting. Yeah, 2 years ago, they were terrible. Like we'd pull off a cherry tomato late in the season and almost enough that it was very noticeable. The damage would be right at the top of the connection point. I forget what that's called. Last year they were not as bad. I don't know why, but they were not as bad. So I don't know. I don't know if it's a seasonal cycle or if the traps worked, or no idea. We do the best we could think of was to take all the plants off site to a composting place rather than doing it ourselves. We did that last year and this year. So
yeah, that's the
strategy. Just like
yeah, I think that's a very good practice to get any residual insects that may be in that material offsite. So we'll see what we learn this year. There could be some variety differences too, and that's something we haven't really had the ability to look at.
Yeah. All right, before we go to this next location, I do want to launch this poll because I am interested to get this information from everyone. Oops, did I launch it? Here we go. Okay, so this is just a poll to kind of get a sense of how you do like that information, that additional information. So whatever we've just been saying, how would you want that to be displayed on the tour? So is it the text alone? Is it the still image where you can see the moth itself? Or is it a combination of the two? Or God help us, because it'll be a lot of work, is it video? And you can choose multiple. So it's a multiple answer, multiple choice. So give a second just to see how you guys are liking this. But it looks like we've got a strong lead on the combination of text and still images. Okay. So that'll be good. So if you're in the coffee shop and you forget your phones, you still want to be able to look at these different images and information, right? Okay. All right, I'm going to end that. I think everyone got in, it looks like. All right. Thanks for that. Oh, I can share the results. I'm sorry, I was hogging those results to myself. Yeah. Okay, that's really great to know. Thanks for that information. Oops, let's close this here. Okay, so here, now we're outside. We're not in a tunnel any longer. We're outside in some of the rows, and we've got bucket traps for squash vine borer. So Amy, if you want to just tell a little bit about the saga here.
Saga. Well, these we just started using this year. I'd always used, I don't know, the past 4, 5, 6 years or something. Well, I'd always gotten a great crop the first succession, maybe the second, and then by the third and fourth, the season would get much shorter for each succession. So because of the vine borer mostly, and everything else, but a lot because of the vine borer. So there was a diamond trap with one of those lures that looks like a little crayon head that I would use. And then this year I just decided to try the bucket trap. Someone had recommended it. So I think it might be the exact same lure into that one. And then just put a little bit of water in the bottom of this trap. So probably maybe these will be better because I just have to repurchase a lure, and the buckets we can use again. But they seemed as successful as the others. And they're very satisfying because that's a big insect you're capturing, and they work like right away. You see them flying into there, so it's like very fun. You feel like you win the battle at least. So I like them. I got those this year from Great Lakes IPM.
It looks like they're spaced a pretty good, distance too.
I had no how. I'm not sure how far I'm supposed to space them.
Yeah, well, I mean,
and I
that's
also, when I do the squash ones, I put out the cucumber ones as well. So I'm never sure, up to this minute, I am not sure if like the lures might interact with each other or be confusing in some way or less effective. But I do the cucumber beetle lure and the squash vine borer
Right
lure,
there.
In close proximity to each other.
that's yeah. Those are the two right there.
Right.
Yeah, and I like your use of you got some extra low tunnel hoops and you just use those to hang the traps. Nice and sturdy.
They're very different lures. And because the pests go after the same crop, it makes sense that they would be compatible. So the lure for the moth is just, again, that pheromone, so it smells like a female moth, and you're pulling the males in. And I believe the lure for the cucumber beetle is more centered around the smell of the floral volatiles of the plants themselves that they're cueing in on and attracted to.
Yeah, Amanda asked in the chat box too. She was going to ask that question about compatibility and combining different lures in smaller operations. So just like what you just said, it's if they've got different approaches, then they can be used in combination, Laura, or how would you sum that up?
Yeah, I guess, I mean, I don't know the research on it, but I would be, yeah, so James says don't put them in the same trap, but I think next to each other. I would definitely be hesitant if you had two pheromone lures. If you put them too close together, that smell is going to mix. So you do have to have some spatial differentiation, but in this case, I think, they're probably just complementing each other because you have the insect present and the flower present in the crop itself. So I wouldn't expect them to interfere in that situation.
Okay.
But yeah, I wouldn't put the squash lure onto the sticky card where you have the beetles. Keep them separate like that.
Great.
Yeah, it might be cool how people said use text and image, like if that image could be the actual pest, so that you can put that together in your mind.
Right. So if you see something that looks like a trap, you could click on it and yeah.
Or even more of that technical information that people like me, we just wing it. We're like, about 25 feet apart. That kind of thing could be helpful of just like, hey, you can put this, because I'm wasting money essentially if I'm putting 3 out in that tiny patch of 4 beds of squash. But, I'm all better safe than sorry. I'm gonna get them, um, but I don't really know. Again, to this minute, I'm not sure how many I should be using in that kind of a space. So that kind of info would be really, I'm sure, useful to people.
Okay, Jim is offering a suggestion about the cucumber beetle trap, which is this one over here. And he said that it might be more effective if you're able to get it closer to the ground as well, closer near the plant canopy.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. Once flowers emerge, the traps are less effective. Yeah, all good information. Yes, so work with your extension people. Because every situation is different. So there's a lot going on. These are complex systems. All right, so if there's no more questions, I'll hop to the next location. Let's see. I wanted to go here next. Let's see. Oh yeah. So here's the trap
That's the
we're talking about.
pinworm.
There it is.
Yep. So
Pinworm trap.
that's just 2 white like cardboard pieces. Inside of there is a sticky board, and on the board is the lure for the female. It smells like the female moths, so the male moths fly in there and then just get stuck onto that board and can't move on.
Right. Let's take a, I mean, I think that is the main feature we're looking at here.
Mhm.
But we can take a spin around just to see if there's anything. We've got some nice tomatoes that look like they're about to ripen up. And this is one of your smaller tunnels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's 14 by 48, probably 48.
These ones are very nicely pruned.
And you do it 2 liters on those, Amy?
We do, yep. In these tunnels, they're 2 liters, spaced 18 inches apart each plant, and then they're in a single lane. And in our larger tunnels at home, we've been able to do them at 12 inches because we can do kind of a V trellis. Yeah.
And this is the kind of trellising you use. This is something that you can kind of reel up as the plant grows, or
You put it
or
down.
actually down. Yeah.
Drop down, yeah. Drop down when we need them to get lowered.
Right.
I think there are, I'm sure actually, there are better better things to use at this point. It's just we've been doing that several years and we have so many that we just keep doing that. But
I prefer those tomahawks.
oh, you do?
Yeah,
Okay.
the other ones are these plastic reels I've tried. And they're hard to lock. And so they'll let go and drop the plants sometimes, especially when they get really heavy and the plastic clips break a lot. So the tomahawks last a lot longer.
Okay, yeah, keep it simple. Never mind. But yeah, they do. So when they're planted, we clip them onto the base of the plant and then, attach them up. And then as they outgrow, in a good year when we've got ourselves all lined up, then we can lower them down and prune the bottom leaves off.
Right. And that's why you can lower them. Absolutely. All right. Any tomato trellising questions? Before we head on to the next location. Don't worry, the flea beetle is coming up. So we're not going to have an urban ag presentation without mentioning the flea beetle. So, okay, let's hop to the next location. All right, we're going all the way up here, which I think we're going to talk about the individual I just mentioned. We got black shade cloth and white protect net for the flea beetle management. So Amy, take it away.
Yeah, so the shade cloth, we germinate lettuce mix every week during the summer. And so without the shade cloth, it does not germinate. And with the shade cloth, it does germinate. That is as simple as that. So it's probably a 50% or so. And we take it off soon after germinating. And if we go through a hot spell, we just use the wobblers a couple times a day, 2 or 3 times a day, just to cool. But otherwise we keep the shade off. But just to keep that soil cool enough to get germination, we have to have that on. The protect net, same kind of deal. Take it off, or if some plants escape at the end or something and it's too short, then the flea beetles find it and then they massacre the crop. I had gotten a little cocky because we had used it for years and I thought, like, surely the population has gone down or we can relax on this, and it turns out we can't. Like, they're just like waiting. They're hanging out, they're waiting for that moment when you think you're safe. So we just put it on at time of seeding because arugula, germinates in 5 minutes. So even missing a day or two, even if we're like, okay, it's gonna rain, we'll leave it off and then we'll come back, and that doesn't work. It's gotta go water it, get that on right away. So it's just kind of part of the system at this point.
And you said in the video, you grow all of your leafy brassicas underneath there?
Some kind of net. I mean, we used to do more like a mustard mix. We'd have to cover. We don't do that. We just do arugula now, and so that gets covered right away. Trying to think. I mean, kale and cabbage get covered with a protect net, but not really for flea beetles. We just stopped growing like a lacinato kale because the flea beetles enjoyed that a lot. So flea beetle wise, I think this is almost just for arugula at this point, and then the bigger netting for the caterpillars on the other brassicas. The flea beetles still take care of the eggplant. So yeah, and someone said there's 2 different kinds. One that gets okay, all right. So our eggplant loving flea beetles are alive and well, and usually the plants outdoors are strong enough they like live through it somehow and still produce well. We tried some in the tunnel. We had an extra bed and threw in some like little fairy tale eggplant, and we had to take them out because the flea beetles were immediately all over them and killed them basically. So we just don't do things like that. It's not really worth
in the tunnel.
The arugula, we think it is worth dealing with, but I saw a question there. Oh, watering through the protect net, is that we really have to give one good watering first, and then cover things up, because the wobblers, unless we get a good rain, but the wobblers, it'll run off and there'll be too many places where it doesn't work well. So usually one really good watering and then covering it is enough to get good germination.
Yeah. And what are the wobblers you're mentioning? Is that a sprinkler type?
Yep, that's that sprinkler you see in this picture in the middle of those beds. Yeah. So those are just a sprinkler that can go in a straight line, basically. Different heads with different drop sizes and things. I do not know which head we use.
You can get them to like fan out all the way around, right? Or just go to one side and they literally wobble as the water comes out. I think that's what they get the name.
All the way around. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
great. But that's how you water the crop throughout. It's 30-day or
that's
so
how
growing.
Direct seeded crops. That's how we'll do it. Yep.
Got it.
Most other things will go on drip.
Right. That's great to know. Yeah, that's a good solution. Any other questions about the flea beetle? Yeah, it's a tough one. But yeah, that arugula is one that it's just such a high value crop and customers really want it too.
Exactly.
And the favorite of flea beetles.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, we like it too. but the cost of the Protect Net, we should probably do some hard numbers on that, because it's really expensive. I mean, we obviously reuse it as many times as we can.
How
And then
long do you find it lasts, Amy? Like 3 years?
Yeah, I'd say we get at least 3. And then, in the spring and fall, we're using more of a row cover than a Protect Net, which is obviously cheaper, but yeah, we can get 3 seasons out of it.
Yeah. And it looks like you use the sandbags, which are great, right? Because they don't poke any holes in anything.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Do you make those yourself or you?
I mean, we buy the UV treated packs of them and then just
Fill 'em up.
purchase a load of fill sand and replace them as we need.
That's a great volunteer project if you get that group that wants to do something to help you on your farm. Stay away from the plants, fill the sandbags.
Yeah, we've definitely done that.
All right. All right. If there's no more questions here, let me get back to our overview. And I think we have one more spot here, one more location we want to visit. We can go down here in tunnel 5. And just something slightly different in here. And these are, do you call this your caterpillar tunnels or they're smaller?
Caterpillar tunnels, yeah. We usually, what do we call them? Our farmer's friend tunnels, because that was our supplier of those. But so yeah, usually we have 4 of those, and usually 2 are filled with summer crops, and so this one must have been one that was out of tomatoes this year. So the chard we planted kind of a early summer planting, and then I forget what else was in those beds, but we had a let's see, this video is in August, so this would be carrots. We had some outside that didn't germinate as well, and we were nervous that we weren't going to have enough, so we put some in the caterpillar tunnel, and we were able to seed them a little later because we knew they'd be fine growing on a little bit extra in the tunnels. And yeah, it worked great because we put the row cover down to germinate because carrots are very fussy to germinate. They just want to be the perfect soil moisture all the time, and it's always July and August when you're trying to get your loads of fall carrots. So that's not fair. But we use the row cover, we water heavily and then put the row cover on. And we haven't found, sometimes I'm worried we're like it's getting too hot or something, but we have never had that problem. And so it keeps it damp enough to get good germination. And so then those were able to grow on, and we harvested fresh bunches, probably early December. And so that was nice to have that extra this year. But we were so relaxed about just harvest the bunches we need that they stayed in the ground a little longer than normally they would, and we didn't cover them with Protect Net. Again, I wouldn't have thought we needed to, but they did get carrot weevil damage that we haven't seen outside to that degree in years since we started covering our carrots with Protect Net, with the bigger mesh Protect Net. So that was like not fair. That was just not fair. So we might end up this with our spring crop covering it again. So once 5 or 6, 7, some years ago, we started getting a lot of that weevil that gets into the carrot root, and read about the fly. And so I haven't looked up to see if there's a trap, because we just started covering it with the thicker, the bigger Protect Net, and it solved the problem. We read somewhere that the fly's kind of lazy, and so it doesn't really, even our holy Protect Net was working just fine, but we didn't cover it in this one. And then the later bunches we started pulling out had a lot of damage from that pest. So that was disappointing.
That's interesting, Amy, because we were at another farm last week and he was harvesting carrots, and the carrot rust fly.
Yeah.
He had to throw them all away, and he had never ever experienced it before, and it was amazing.
Okay, but it was a late harvest.
It was a very late, it was last week. Last week he was harvesting, pulling them out, and they were the early ones that were in his cold storage were great. The ones that he left in longer were completely infested, like the
Dang.
entire carrot,
Ah,
multiple larvae in each one coming out all
okay.
over.
Yeah, ours weren't quite that bad. Some were, but most of them weren't that bad, but they were bad enough that we didn't sell them. We did get rid of some probably, but we're using them for ourselves. But no, yeah, that's so I don't know. I don't know that life cycle. We need to read up
Yeah.
on that guy again and see what we need to do, because we did just seed some in another small tunnel for an early, because we usually put some in a tunnel and get them, by early to mid-May for market.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
it's a war out there, people. Battle, battle. It's just
Right.
really is.
Yeah. Especially, yeah, with the season extension, at first when we all first started doing the season extension, it just seemed like endless opportunity.
Right.
And, then the challenges creep in as well.
Yeah, endless opportunity for the pest as well.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I wanted to spin around again to show here's some more wobblers now that I know the terminology.
Yeah.
But we can, you can see there's a lot going on. I picked those or those 6 areas because I knew there was trap and a pest story with each one, but there's a lot more that there's the 23 locations you can visit at on this tour. So we didn't even visit half of the sites that you can kind of beam down to.
Yeah, so here you're just seeing kind of some late summer greens getting started. Let's see, beans. You can see a couple different successions of beans in the pictures. You could see the shade we put over the summer
Mhm.
tunnels. I think that might be 40, can't remember if it's 40 or 50%, which always surprised me. It seemed kind of like a lot for tomatoes, but it's really, really helped. And then you see like the tarps that we use we've used those for breaking down greens debris. Like after we harvest a salad green, we'll cover a bed with tarps, and then inevitably we ended up throwing them on edges and things where weeds are just growing through.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about that you're very much reduced till, no till. I don't know how so you do a lot of bed resting and tarping and compost applications throughout the farm.
Yeah, we do. Let's see, the tarps we mostly use now for that between greens function. Sometimes we use it kind of to push a pause button if something's getting out of control, but we try not to overuse those anymore. But it's a really cool tool to use to um, after a salad crop, especially in the summer, after it's been tarped a week or maybe 2, it's ready to kind of rake off and prepare for planting again, so that we're not we don't use a tiller. We have a tilther we use, one of those kind of battery powered tilthers to turn in amendments and stuff. I think it works in about 1 or 2 inches into the soil. So our bed prep is done by broad fork and tilther and rake. But the soil is such now that that process feels efficient to us. It feels like it moves pretty quickly, and we're still able to get good germination with seeds even, and we use the paper pot transplanter and we're able to get that through beds. So even those beans you see were paper pot transplanter.
Wow.
6-year-old back there.
Yeah, that's something I think that I hear from a lot of farmers in Indiana who buy the paper pot and then they have to turn around and say it just does not work in our heavy clay soil and they can't get it through the crop. But here you've built up that organic matter and have those nice fluffy, I think your beds are fluffy, nice
Yeah.
fluffy beds that can go right through.
It's a great tool for the right setting or right application. We use it all the time. Even those beans were in 2-inch paper pot trays we planted out.
Very cool. And that's it can be a pest management tool as well, right? Because you can have those started in a protected environment, hopefully, and then get them out when they're nice and strong. Yeah. So this was great. I'm thinking maybe not enough time because I feel like we've just scratched the surface, but for the time that we've allotted for tonight, we've got about 10 more minutes. I was going to launch a quick survey for the audience because we do just want a couple bits of information on how you liked the event tonight. Would you like to see more events like this? Would you like another hour and a half with Amy, maybe? So let me just start. Oops, let's see if I can get to the other.
While Maggie does that, I would really invite people to unmute or turn on your camera and ask our farmer, Amy, some questions if you have them about her farm in particular. Or
Absolutely.
maybe even the process of opening up her farm to let us to create this tour.
Yeah, so I've got that poll or quiz or survey really is what it is up there. But yes, please ask those questions. You can put it in the chat box if you're feeling shy. But feel free, you can unmute yourself. So if you'd like to, or at least I hope you can. If anyone's having trouble with that, just let me know. You should be able to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Hi,
Oh, there's Fernanda.
everyone.
Hi, Fernanda.
How are you all? This is so great. Thank you for sharing this. What a great work. And yeah, I mean, I just one of the questions I would like to ask Amy is, how do you see these two helping you to even share more broadly about your operation and even consider reaching out different markets? I'm just wondering, because it certainly has like an IPM tool here for the audience that can certainly like help with learning different strategies that you were using, but just in general, like sharing about your farm and the crops that you were growing. How do you see this tool like for your operation and expanding the all the work that you were doing and reaching different markets?
Well, it's really the first time I'm getting my eyes on the tool. I haven't seen the finished version of the product. I'd seen the interview piece, but so I don't know. Let's talk more ideas. As far as markets go, I think any of our chefs are gonna care very much. I'd like to get them out in the garden, but yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes.
If I could just jump in for a second, what I heard you say a couple times, Amy, is the camera was spinning around, you were seeing things, months later. It's kind of a good tool to kind of remind you what it was like in August, like I need to do a better job of doing this, or I did a great job of doing that. And, so I mean, it's only going to happen one time. We're not going to re-image your farm every year, but it is kind of a interesting record keeping point in time, like what's going on that second week of August. You can see a lot of detail where the plants were, how the traps were, fruits. I mean, all kinds of things, the condition of the tunnels. So it's a really interesting record keeping piece, if nothing else, but it's just like one slice, like 2 weeks later, it might be totally different, but that's what I heard you say a couple times. Maybe you just were like, oh, I forgot that we had that out, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on there for sure.
Yeah, that's a great point. Using it ourselves for that reason, or even with staff, showing them different things to communicate. I'm excited to dig into other ones too. It's so detailed that getting to look around someone else's farm in August will be very, very interesting also. There should definitely be some kind of August disclaimer though, as people open this. hey, have you ever been to a farm in August? Okay. It's funny because I think the day that you did this, took a day off, like it was August, and I was like, I can't come. I'm out of town. I'm gonna be swimming or something, just like feeling very August at that point. But I'm really excited to dig in and look at this, and then also others as well. Because record keeping isn't the strength of our farm, certainly, and probably the same for others. So
What else? Anyone else have questions? And I
You're
like how
giving-
we touched on you could just see so much like the irrigation, like from my experience farming, those were always such tricky things. The irrigation and how you do that, the tunnel setup. We even have your wash and pack station, I think, over here. Like how do you set that up, and what's the best and smartest way to do that? So just all of those things, it is so great to see how other people do it.
Yeah, I think one thing that I mentioned in my presentation that I'm not sure if we've made this decision or not, but you brought it up, Amy. I think it's a great question. Like, what about the other, 20 tours that we have? Where are those, and where can I take a look at them? We have, some of them are posted on our website, and then some of them aren't officially finished and published in terms of all the extra stuff we're going to put in. But we would probably love to share all of those with you at some point in time. So I'm guessing sooner than later, we'll get those finished and get them out to all the folks that registered for this at least, and then try to publicize that this resource is out there. And then, come and get it. I mean, this is the time of year to do that. In April and May, you're not interested, you're farming, so I get it. But I think ultimately that's where we're headed is to get all this out so that, when you have time or have interest or remember, can kind of just look at operations, not only throughout Indiana, but Illinois and Michigan, Ohio, and just see what's different, what you can learn, what can you pick up. That's kind of the idea of the whole project. So I'm glad to hear you say that.
I'm
Yeah,
hoping that
I could see like as you're doing over the years, as you're thinking, okay, we're setting up a new wash pack this year. I'm gonna dig back in and just look at 6 different wash packs on the tour. That'd be amazing. Or I don't know how you would do this part, but like if we're struggling with some pests, it'd be nice to be able to kind of filter in some way or see. That might be beyond the scope, but I am thinking now, well, once we set up our new nursery, it'd be great to go and tour, just like look at other people's seedling setups and what they have going on. So I think there's a lot of uses, a lot of different ways to use this tool.
Yeah.
I know we have a few of the educators from Purdue Extension on here that I recognize, but I'm hoping, I think that's kind of what we're going to target as well once all of these are published, is to have some of our educators host local watch parties with farmers in their area and kind of go through the different geographic regions and explore them together to try to get people in a room. But a room in Indiana can go to Michigan and check out their farms, and go to Ohio and check out their farms together. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of love coming in the chat box for you being here today, Amy, and sharing your operation. So there's a lot of appreciation for that in the chat box. And we just appreciate everyone being here too, to participate, because we had our ideas on how this might be useful, but it's so good to hear other people's feedback on how interested you are in these and how you envision using them. So we're kind of at that time right now where it's 7:30. So we'll kind of let everyone go for tonight. But again, stay posted. We have everyone's email address that registered for this event. So just like Jim said, we will Stay in touch as resources become available, and this recording will go out to everyone who registered tomorrow by the end of the day. So